The wind was hollow, carrying the stench of smoke and something far worse, decay. Ashen clouds loomed overhead, masking the late afternoon sun in a pale haze that gave the landscape a lifeless tint. Evelyn Ward pulled the scarf tighter around her face and adjusted the strap on her backpack. Every sound, every shifting pebble, distant crow, or breeze-rattled tree, made her fingers inch closer to the handle of her machete. The map she had folded inside her jacket pocket was smudged, torn in the corners, and barely legible, but it was all she had. Scribbled across the top in her brother's handwriting were 3 words that echoed louder than anything else in her head. Sanctuary, 123 miles. Evelyn didn't know what sanctuary really was. A town? A military base? A myth whispered in desperation between survivors? All she knew was that it was supposed to be safe, zombie-free, with walls, food, and people who remembered how to be human. Her brother believed in it. He died believing in it. Behind her, the small town of Carlton lay in ruins. Broken shop windows, burned-out cars, and skeletal remains littered the streets like a photograph of the end. She hadn't seen another living person in days, not since the horde overran the gas station outside Millfield and dragged Jackson, her only companion, into the dirt. His screams still followed her in her dreams. She had run. She hadn't looked back. Now, she was alone. Evelyn pressed forward, her boots crunching gravel as she followed the cracked highway. The silence around her wasn't peace, it was a warning. Civilization had died quietly. The loud ones were the dead. As the sun dipped behind the tree line, the temperature fell. She knew she had to find shelter before nightfall. That's when they moved, when they hunted. The undead were slow in daylight, sluggish like drunk shadows. But at night, something changed in them. It wasn't magic or science, it was survival. The dark gave them purpose. She spotted a collapsed barn about a mile up the road. Its roof had caved in, but the stone foundation still stood. She approached with caution, crouched low, scanning for movement. A lone crow burst from the rafters with a startled caw, and Evelyn's heart nearly stopped. But nothing else moved. Inside, she checked the corners and cleared the space as best as she could. A few broken beams made decent barricades. She pushed one against the front entrance and stacked some crates around the sides. It wouldn't stop a determined group of walkers, but it might slow them down. Evelyn sat with her back against the cold stone, unwrapped a granola bar, and chewed slowly. Each bite was mechanical. Her mind wasn't on the food, it was on the journey ahead. 123 miles. On foot. Through forests, abandoned towns, and open highways crawling with the dead. A soft noise outside made her freeze. She held her breath. Footsteps. Shuffling. Slow. Uneven. She rose silently, machete in hand, eyes locked on the barn door. The steps drew closer, then paused. Something sniffed the air. Then, a soft growl. Evelyn braced herself, gripping the handle tightly. The door creaked as weight pressed against it. The wooden beam groaned. And then... nothing. The creature must have lost interest. Or maybe it was waiting. Minutes passed. Then hours. Evelyn didn't sleep that night. Morning came wrapped in fog. The world outside looked even more ghostly than the night before. She stepped out cautiously, machete ready, and scanned the area. No sign of the walker. Just the long road winding through the mist ahead. She walked fast, avoiding open areas. A billboard on the side of the highway read, "Better days ahead, visit Hillsborough." The smile of the painted family on the sign was cracked and faded, the father's face peeled off by weather and time. Better days. What a joke. Evelyn reached the edge of a town by noon. No name sign remained, but a fire-damaged diner sat at the corner of the first intersection. It looked abandoned, but something about it made her gut twist. She stepped inside, sweeping her machete slowly from left to right. Broken stools. A shattered jukebox. Plates left on tables, now fossilized with time. and blood. Dried trails led toward the kitchen, smeared along the floor as if someone, or something, had been dragged. Evelyn hesitated. Curiosity was dangerous, but sometimes it revealed supplies. Or survivors. In the kitchen, she found a man. Or what remained of one. His body was slumped against a cabinet, face gray, unmoving. The smell told her he'd been dead for a while. She turned to leave, then heard it. A voice. A whisper. "No, no, please." Evelyn spun around. It came from the pantry. She yanked the door open, ready for anything, and was met with wide, terrified eyes. A girl. No older than 14. Clutching a frying pan like a weapon. "Don't hurt me," she cried. "I won't," Evelyn said, lowering her blade. "Are you bit?" The girl shook her head. "No. I swear. I've been hiding. That thing, it killed my dad." Evelyn glanced at the corpse in the kitchen. That was him? Tears welled in the girl's eyes. "He told me not to come out. I've been here for 3 days. I'm hungry." Evelyn handed her the second granola bar from her jacket. "What's your name?" "Lily." "I'm Evelyn." "Where are you going?" the girl asked between bites. "Sanctuary. Have you heard of it?" The girl hesitated, then nodded. "My dad said it was real. That's why we left the city." Evelyn felt a flicker of hope. "You want to come with me?" Lily didn't answer right away. But then she stood, wobbling a little from hunger, and nodded. "Okay." Evelyn smiled faintly. Maybe she wouldn't have to walk alone anymore. As they stepped back onto the road, the fog thinned. But far ahead, barely visible, shadows moved along the tree line. Evelyn's smile faded. The road to Sanctuary was still long. And every step could truly be the last. The fog lifted slowly as the morning sun burned through the overcast sky, revealing the long, broken stretch of highway ahead. Evelyn and Lily walked side by side, keeping close to the shoulder, hidden as much as possible behind crumbling signs and overgrown brush. They didn't speak much. Words weren't needed, only alert eyes and quiet footsteps. Lily had tied her tangled brown hair into a messy knot and carried a rusted frying pan like it was Excalibur. She never let it drop below her waist. Every bird call made her flinch. Every gust of wind made her head turn. Evelyn walked with the weight of someone who'd seen too much, her machete swinging lightly from a strap on her belt. She kept glancing at the tree line ahead, where she'd seen those vague, shifting forms. Shadows. Walkers, maybe. Or worse, bandits. They stopped at a rest area just before noon. The vending machines had been smashed, but Evelyn managed to find a protein bar stuck between metal coils. She handed it to Lily without a word and took a seat under the broken shade awning. "I used to stop at places like this on road trips," Lily said, sitting cross-legged beside her. "Back before." She didn't finish. Evelyn nodded. "Me too. My dad used to hate stopping. Said it was a waste of gas. But my brother loved these places. He used to collect postcards from everyone." Lily gave a small smile. "I would have liked your brother." Evelyn didn't respond. Her eyes were locked on something behind the trees, movement again. It was far, but real this time. 3 figures. Too fast for walkers. Too silent for animals. She rose slowly and motioned for Lily to stay down. "Get behind the bench. Don't move unless I say." Lily obeyed, eyes wide. Evelyn stepped forward, machete loose in her grip, her other hand brushing the pocket where she kept a small flare. One she hoped she'd never need to use. The figures emerged. Not walkers. Not bandits either. Scouts. Teenagers, maybe 20 at most. Worn clothing, makeshift weapons. One carried a bat wrapped in wire. Another had a dented shovel. Their leader, a tall girl with short black hair and a sharp gaze, held a compound bow aimed loosely at Evelyn's chest. We don't want trouble, Evelyn said calmly. Neither do we, the leader replied. We saw you two back near the diner. Could have approached then. We waited to make sure you weren't infected. We're not, Evelyn said. The girl lowered her bow. Name's Kara. These are Reed and Jonah. I'm Evelyn. That's Lily. Lily peeked over the bench. Cute, Jonah said. The kid's got guts. She's more capable than she looks, Evelyn said. Kara stepped closer. Where you headed? Sanctuary. The three exchanged looks. You've heard of it, Evelyn noted. Reed nodded. Heard it's real. Walled-off community. Out west. Farms, solar panels, water purification. But it's far. We're walking, Evelyn said. We have no other choice. Then we're walking too, Kara said, as if it were settled. Safety in numbers. Evelyn didn't like trusting strangers. But 3 extra sets of eyes, and weapons, could make the difference between life and death. They set off together, 5 now instead of 2, and by late afternoon they reached an old overpass. The bridge was partially collapsed, but the lower section was still passable. That's when they saw it. A bus. Stuck sideways in the median, like it had jackknifed while trying to flee something. One door was open. Blood trailed down the steps. The interior was dark. Could be supplies, Jonah said. Or something worse, Reed added. Evelyn stepped forward. I'll check it. I'll go with you, Kara offered. Lily waited with the others while Evelyn and Kara climbed through the broken window near the back of the bus. Inside, the smell hit hard. Not just blood, old blood. Dried, caked into the seats, smeared on the floor. But no bodies. They moved slowly, checking seat by seat. Near the front, Evelyn found a bag beneath a seat. Inside, cans of food, 2 small bottles of water, and a first aid kit. Jackpot. But then something moved behind them. A low moan. One of the seats began to shift. Evelyn spun. A walker. No, 2. Hidden under jackets. Limbs twisted, pale faces snarling. Kara didn't hesitate, arrow drawn, loosed. The first dropped instantly. The second lunged. Evelyn swung, steel flashing. The blade hit hard, clean through the neck. The walker fell with a final grunt. Evelyn exhaled slowly. Let's not push our luck. They exited the bus, bag in hand. Back outside, Lily asked, You okay? Yeah, Evelyn said. Better than they are. That night, they made camp in a small valley below the bridge, surrounded by thick brush and a circle of stones they reinforced with sticks. It wasn't a fortress, but it was something. They built a small fire, barely more than embers. Reed told jokes. Jonah talked about his old life, a college dropout turned mechanic. Kara sat in silence, eyes scanning the dark. Lily curled up beside Evelyn, the frying pan clutched in both hands. Do you think Sanctuary's real? Lily whispered. I have to believe it is, Evelyn said. Otherwise, all of this is for nothing. A howl echoed in the distance. Not a wolf. Not a dog. Something else. The fire crackled quietly. Evelyn stayed awake long after the others slept, staring into the trees, her fingers never far from the blade. The road to Sanctuary was beginning to feel longer with every step. And they'd only just begun. The road narrowed as the group approached the outskirts of a once bustling city now swallowed by nature and silence. Trees had cracked through the pavement. Cars were rusted where they'd died in panicked formation. Skyscrapers stood like grave markers, their windows black and hollow. Evelyn motioned for everyone to stop and crouch behind an overturned truck. We don't go in loud, she said quietly, eyes scanning the silent concrete canyon ahead. Too many blind spots. Kara nodded. Agreed. No shouting, no metal on metal. We take side streets, stay low. Lily looked anxious, her fingers tightening around the frying pan. Evelyn touched her shoulder gently. Just stay close to me. No hero moves. They moved like shadows, weaving through the ruins. A bakery on the corner still had burnt-out ovens and a sign that read fresh bagels daily. Evelyn couldn't help but imagine the smell. Real food. Warmth. Community. The world before everything fell apart. They crossed through an alley when they found the first sign something wasn't right. A smear of blood on the wall, too fresh. Jonah bent down and touched the edge of the trail. Not dry. Hours old. Maybe less. Reed grimaced. Could be someone alive. Or recently dead, Kara added. They continued, more cautious now. The city felt wrong. Not just empty, but paused. Like it was waiting. Evelyn's gut twisted. It reminded her of Carlton, just before the horde hit. Too quiet. Too still. As they neared a small park surrounded by tall buildings, Evelyn froze. She raised her fist, a silent signal to halt. Across the green, a body hung from a lamppost. Not by the neck, by the arms. Tied up. Clothes shredded. No sign of struggle. Just, displayed. Lily whimpered. Evelyn pulled her close. Who would do that? Reed asked under his breath. Someone trying to send a message, Kara replied. Or bait. Then they heard the voice. Weak. Raspy. Close. Help. Evelyn spun. The voice was coming from a nearby sewer grate. Jonah rushed over and knelt. There's someone down there. Evelyn joined him, peering into the dark shaft. A man was down there, maybe in his 30s, blood on his temple, one eye swollen shut. They took my wife, he croaked. They took her into the tunnels. Who? Evelyn asked. Survivors. But not like you. They're sick. Twisted. Reed glanced around nervously. We should get out of here. Evelyn looked down at the man. Can you climb? He shook his head. Legs broken. We don't have time to, Jonah started. Kara interrupted. We're not leaving him. She dropped her rope and descended slowly. Evelyn helped steady it. Minutes later, the man was out, leaning heavily on Kara. His name was Mason. He said he and his wife had been captured by a group calling themselves the New Dawn. They claimed to be rebuilding the world but lived underground and took captives for labor, or worse. We were heading for sanctuary too, Mason said. Heard it was west of here. We got ambushed coming into the city. How many of them? Evelyn asked. 10. Maybe more. Reed cursed under his breath. Do we keep going through the city or go around? Kara checked the map. Going around adds at least 2 days. And it'll take us through exposed highways. We won't make it. Evelyn made the call. We move fast. Quiet. We don't stop. They pushed forward, but Evelyn's mind raced. The idea of another group, this New Dawn, was worse than a horde. Walkers were predictable. Survivors with plans, rules, and weapons. That was a different kind of threat. As dusk fell, they reached the subway entrance Mason had escaped from. The iron gate was wide open, torchlight flickering below. We go down there? Lily asked. No, Evelyn said. We avoid it. But before they could backtrack, a sharp whistle echoed through the buildings. Then another. Jonah's eyes went wide. They found us. Run! Kara shouted. They scattered through the streets, sprinting over cracked sidewalks and leaping over debris. Footsteps chased them, human, fast, relentless. Evelyn grabbed Lily's hand and darted through a service tunnel behind a hotel. Kara followed with Mason. Reed and Jonah split off in another direction. Gunfire cracked behind them, echoing like thunder. Evelyn skidded around a corner, heart pounding. A door ahead, she slammed into it, forcing it open, and ushered everyone inside. They emerged in what looked like a museum, a dark hall filled with mannequins and dusty exhibits. Evelyn slammed the door shut and slid a bench in front of it. Panting, she turned. The building was silent. They were safe, for now. An hour passed in hiding. Jonah and Reed reappeared through another door, bruised but alive. "We lost them," Jonah said, breathless. "Barely." Reed's face was pale. "They were organized. Military hand signs, formation moves. They're not scavengers. They're planning something," Evelyn said. "And we walked straight into their backyard. They spent the night curled between glass display cases and broken statues. No fire. No talking. Just the sound of distant footsteps and the weight of fear pressing in on all sides." That night, Evelyn didn't sleep. Instead, she sat against the cold marble wall, staring at the city map she'd recovered earlier. Sanctuary was close. Maybe 60 miles now. But this city was a trap. And if they didn't find a way out by morning, it might become their grave. By dawn, the city's heavy shadows began to retreat, but the threat hadn't vanished. Evelyn stood at the broken museum window, peering through cracked glass at the alley below. New dawn patrols moved with precision, 3 men to a unit, silent hand signals, rifles raised. This was no random survivor gang. "They're not scavenging," she said, stepping back. "They're hunting." Kara sat beside Mason, cleaning a scrape on his arm. "They know the city better than us. Every tunnel, every rooftop. If we wait much longer, we'll be boxed in." Reed checked the rounds in his revolver. "Let's just go out guns blazing." Evelyn shook her head. "We wouldn't make it 2 blocks. What do you suggest?" Jonah asked. Evelyn unrolled the map she'd taken from a burned-out police station 2 days earlier. She pointed to a thin line along the city's eastern border. "There's a drainage canal that runs under the freeway. If it's not collapsed, it could take us out of the city without passing any checkpoints." Mason leaned forward. "They use those canals. That's how I escaped. It's risky, but it's possible." "Then that's our only shot," Kara said. "We move at dusk." Lily sat quietly in the corner, hugging her knees. Her silence worried Evelyn. The girl hadn't spoken since the chase. She looked smaller somehow, as if the city itself had worn her down. Evelyn knelt beside her. "You doing okay?" Lily nodded slowly. I didn't know people could be worse than the dead." Evelyn gave a sad smile. "Sometimes surviving changes people. But it doesn't have to change us." Lily looked up. "Promise?" "I promise." That night, as the first stars emerged in the smoky sky, the group slipped out the museum's back door. Evelyn led, Mason between Kara and Jonah, Lily in the middle, Reed covering the rear. They moved like whispers through the alleys and rubble-strewn paths. The drainage canal entrance was hidden behind a collapsed apartment complex. Mason found it first, his memory sharp despite the pain in his leg. Evelyn pried the grate open. A wave of cold, stale air rushed out. They climbed in one by one. Inside, the world felt like a tomb, echoes bouncing off wet concrete, the smell of mold and metal. The tunnel was wide enough to walk in, but barely. Moss dripped from the ceiling. Rats scurried in the shadows. They moved in near silence, flashlights covered with cloth to dim the beams. After half an hour, they reached a fork. "This way," Mason said, pointing left. But before they could continue, a sudden clatter echoed behind them. A flashlight. Not theirs. Evelyn spun around. Voices, low, firm, fast. "They're in the tunnels," a man shouted. "Split left and right. Go!" Evelyn grabbed Lily's hand. "Run!" The tunnel turned into chaos. Boots splashed through ankle-deep water. Gunshots rang out, ricocheting off the walls. Kara and Reed turned and fired, dropping one pursuer. Jonah helped Mason limp forward. Evelyn led the charge, scanning for side exits. Ahead, a ladder. "This way," she shouted. She climbed first, kicking the rusted hatch above with her boots until it gave way with a loud groan. One by one, the others followed, barely squeezing through before more shouts rose from below. Once topside, they emerged into a dark, wide drainage basin, ringed by barbed wire and overgrown brush. The freeway loomed ahead like a skeletal bridge to freedom. But as they crossed the basin, headlights flicked on behind them. 2 armored jeeps. New dawn. Gunfire tore into the concrete beside them. "Run!" Evelyn screamed. They scattered, leaping over debris, ducking under rusted pipes. Jonah went down hard, hit in the shoulder. Mason pulled him behind a mound of bricks. Reed tossed a smoke grenade, his last one. The cloud gave them just seconds. They found an old stone culvert on the edge of the canal and ducked inside. The shooting stopped. Everything went quiet again. Too quiet. "Did we lose them?" Lily whispered. "No," Evelyn said. "They're circling. Waiting." Kara knelt beside Jonah, who was pale and bleeding. "We need to get the bullet out." "There's no time," Mason said. "If we don't keep moving, we're all done." Reed scanned the narrow space. "There's a service exit up ahead. I think it connects to the freeway embankment." They made a stretcher from broken fence wire and tarp. Reed and Mason carried Jonah as gently as they could while Evelyn guided them up the path. It was slow. Agonizing. At the top, dawn's first light broke across the landscape. The city was behind them. Rolling hills and thick forest stretched ahead. They collapsed near a dry creek bed, breathing heavily, listening, nothing. No engines. No voices. No gunfire. "We made it," Reed muttered. "For now," Kara added. Evelyn looked at the distance. 50 miles, maybe less. She sat beside Lily and watched the sunrise. It was faint, dusty, filtered through a scarred sky, but real. Jonah groaned in pain. Lily finally spoke. "We need sanctuary more than ever." Evelyn nodded. "We're not turning back." Kara knelt beside them. "We keep going. No matter what." Mason stared at the skyline one last time. "Those people, New Dawn, they won't stop. They think they're saving the world by controlling it." "Then we don't let them win," Evelyn said. She stood, brushing dust from her jacket. "We walk. Until we can't. Then we crawl. Because whatever's waiting at Sanctuary, it has to be better than this." The others nodded, silently agreeing. Their path would take them through the forest next, uncharted territory. Untouched by the undead for the most part. But as Evelyn looked deeper into the tree line, she felt something new stirring. Something watching. The road to Sanctuary wasn't over. It had only just begun. The forest was dense, ancient, and almost too quiet. Birds didn't sing here. Even the wind seemed to whisper rather than howl. Every footstep sank into soft earth, muffled by fallen leaves and moss. The group moved in a slow line, careful to avoid snapping branches or making sudden noise. Jonah was still weak. His shoulder wound had been dressed, but infection was a looming threat. Evelyn and Mason took turns supporting him, while Reed scouted ahead. Kara kept a tight watch on the rear, her bow ready. Evelyn had hoped the forest would offer peace, a break from the chaos of the city, but instead, it felt like walking through someone else's dream. Or maybe their nightmare. They camped beneath a massive cedar tree just before sundown. Evelyn found a small stream nearby and filled 2 bottles. The water was surprisingly clear, cold, and untouched. As she returned to the others, she paused. A figure stood at the edge of the trees. Not a walker. Not a New Dawn scout. A man. Tall. Gray beard. Worn jacket. One eye covered with a leather patch. Evelyn raised her machete slowly. "Who are you?" The man didn't flinch. "I'm not here to fight." Reed stepped up behind her, rifle raised. Keep walking. But the man raised both hands. I walked back from Sanctuary. Thought you might want to know why. That stopped everyone cold. Kara narrowed her eyes. You're lying. Am I? He said. Then why are you all headed west, desperate and starving, same as I was once? Evelyn stepped closer, voice low and firm. If you're telling the truth, talk. Now. The man nodded and sat slowly on a flat rock, unstrapping his canteen and taking a long drink. Name's Archer, he began. Used to be a trucker. Before the world cracked open. Heard about Sanctuary the same way you probably did, on shortwave radio, word of mouth, messages carved into walls. Took me 5 weeks to get there. Lily listened closely, hugging her knees. I found it, Archer continued. High walls. Real power. They have solar grids, fresh water, even guards with clean uniforms. It's not a myth. Then why did you leave? Evelyn asked. He stared at the fire. Because Sanctuary isn't what it seems. Reed scoffed. Here we go. I'm serious, Archer said. They take people in, yes. But only the ones they want. Young. Strong. Skills they can use. Everyone else, they disappear. Kara frowned. Disappear how? No one knows, Archer replied. You just wake up one morning and someone's gone. The guards say nothing. The council says they left. But no one leaves without telling someone. Not in that kind of place. Silence fell over the camp. Lily's voice was soft. What do they do to them? Archer didn't answer. He just stared into the flames. Could be paranoia, Mason muttered. You were tired, wounded, seeing things. I had a brother with me, Archer said. He was sick. But alive. They said they'd treat him. He vanished the second night. When I asked, they told me to stop digging. Evelyn clenched her fists. So what did you do? I ran. You didn't try to find your brother? Archer's eye grew hard. You don't get it. These people, they smile, they offer food, and they talk like they're saving the world. But under it all, there's control. Order. No one steps out of line. And if they think you're weak, or if you ask the wrong questions, you're gone. Jonah Winston leaned forward. Even if that's true, what else do we have? Reed nodded. Sanctuary is still better than out here. I'm not telling you not to go, Archer said. I'm telling you to go with your eyes open. Don't trust everything you see. Evelyn watched the old man carefully. He didn't seem crazy. He seemed broken. Like someone who had seen a dream shatter from the inside. I've got maps, he added. Safer routes. A way around New Dawn patrols. I'll trade them, for supplies. You still going somewhere? Kara asked. I'm heading east. I heard of a settlement near the mountains. Small. Honest. They grow their own food, don't take in many outsiders. But at least they don't pretend to be something they're not. Evelyn stepped away, thinking. Archer's story haunted her. If Sanctuary was real but corrupted, what were they walking toward? But even knowing that, what choice did they have? She returned to the fire. We'll take the maps, she said. But we're still heading west. Archer handed over a leather-bound notebook. Inside, detailed hand-drawn pages, elevation sketches, patrol routes, and known supply caches. It was gold. He nodded. I hope you find what you're looking for. By morning, he was gone. The forest trail Archer had drawn was narrow but clear. They moved faster now, more focused, more alert. Lily broke the silence once. Do you think he was lying? I don't know, Evelyn said honestly. But he believed it. Jonah added, and he survived. That means something. Reed grinned faintly. Maybe Sanctuary needs someone to shake things up. Or expose the truth, Kara added. As the forest thinned and hills rose in the distance, Evelyn felt something shift. Not in the land, but in them. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were witnesses. Carriers of a truth they hadn't yet faced. Sanctuary was no longer just a place. It was a test. And if what Archer said was true, they'd need each other more than ever to pass it. The pine forest thickened with every mile, tall spires of green blotting out the sky. Sunlight filtered down in weak beams, making everything below feel cold and timeless. Birds flitted overhead, and every now and then a squirrel darted through the underbrush, but the silence still held that familiar tension, like the earth was holding its breath. Evelyn walked at the front, eyes sweeping left and right, machete in hand. The notebook Archer had given them had proven useful, 2 clear routes so far, 1 hidden stream, and a buried stash of canned goods and bandages tucked behind a mossy boulder. Hope stirred again. They were getting closer. 40 miles, maybe less. But Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling in her chest. Not dread. Not fear. Something else. A wrongness she couldn't name. Behind her, Lily walked beside Jonah, whose infection had subsided, thanks to antibiotics they'd scavenged from an old ranger station. Kara and Reed brought up the rear, whispering to each other too quietly for Evelyn to catch. At first, it didn't seem strange. They'd grown close since the city. Trusted each other. But when Evelyn looked back suddenly during a stop, they stopped talking mid-sentence and gave her uneasy smiles. The seed of doubt was planted. That night, the group made camp near a broken-down firewatch tower. Its ladder was rusted halfway, but the lower cabin still stood. Evelyn climbed the short slope to survey the land while the others made a fire. She saw lights. Small ones. Distant flickers, no more than a few, but enough to confirm it wasn't the stars. They were too low. Too purposeful. She returned quickly, heart pounding. Campfire, she said. North Ridge. Could be Sanctuary scouts. Could be New Dawn. Reed stood slowly. Then we move now. Evelyn narrowed her eyes. No. We rest. Move at first light when we have better vision. Reed didn't argue. But he didn't sit down either. Later, Evelyn took first watch. The fire was low. Everyone else slept, or pretended to. She heard movement near the food bag. Nothing loud. Just subtle shifting. She approached quietly, stepping around the stones. It was Reed. Pocketing something from the bag. Evelyn's voice was flat. You planning to share? Reed jumped and turned. It's just rations. I wasn't. You were taking more than your share. He hesitated, then stood straight. I was setting aside food for when this all goes south. Evelyn stared at him. Why would it go south? He met her eyes. Because Kara and I don't think Sanctuary is real anymore. She stepped closer. We're this close, and now you doubt it. Reed glanced at the sleeping group. Archer's warning made sense. What if Sanctuary is another trap? Another version of New Dawn, just with polished boots and smiling faces? We survive by moving forward, she said. Not by turning on each other. Reed's mouth tightened. You're not the only one making decisions, Evelyn. Before she could respond, a twig snapped. Jonah. He'd heard everything. But before anyone could speak again, a sharp whizzing sound sliced the air. Thunk. An arrow landed at Evelyn's feet. Another struck the tree behind her. Down, she shouted. All at once, the forest exploded into motion. Figures emerged from the shadows, fast, silent, masked in mud and leaves. Not walkers. Not New Dawn. Another group. Survivors. Well organized. Camouflaged. Armed with bows, spears, and makeshift clubs. Ambush. Kara dove for Lily, shielding her as the attackers surged. Evelyn raised her machete and blocked a swing from a club. She countered, slicing into her attacker's side. He dropped. Reed fired his pistol, twice, before a blunt weapon knocked it from his hand. He fell back, dazed. Jonah tackled one of them despite his injury, grappling in the dirt. Mason grabbed a burning log from the fire and waved it like a sword, keeping one attacker at bay. Then a sharp whistle rang out, and the fighting stopped. The attackers froze. Their leader emerged, a woman in a patchwork leather coat, tall and muscular, with war paint streaked across her face. Her voice was calm, but commanding. "Stand down." Evelyn stepped forward, chest heaving. "Who are you?" "We are what's left of Redleaf," the woman replied. "A forest outpost that New Dawn burned to the ground. We protect what's ours. You attacked us. We protect this trail. You set up camp without permission. That's not how it works out here." Kara stood slowly, brushing leaves off Lily. "We're not a threat. We're heading for Sanctuary." The woman's face changed slightly. "Sanctuary," she said. "Haven't heard that name in months." Evelyn stepped closer. "It's real. We're almost there." The woman studied her, then turned to her group. "They're not New Dawn. Let them go." Weapons lowered. The attackers began to melt back into the trees. But Evelyn had one more question. "Have you seen others? Survivors heading west?" The woman nodded. "A few. Not many. Some don't make it." "And Sanctuary?" The leader paused. "It's there. But you won't like everything you find." With that, she disappeared into the forest. Later that night, after the camp was rebuilt, the group sat in silence. Reed finally broke it. "I wasn't going to abandon you," he said to Evelyn. I needed a backup plan." Evelyn nodded. "From now on, there's no backup. Only forward." Kara added, "We're too close to fall apart now." Jonah smiled faintly. "Besides, we just survived a second ambush. That's got to mean we're doing something right." Lily sat beside the fire, staring into the flames. Evelyn joined her. "You okay?" Lily looked up. "When we get to Sanctuary, will we be safe?" Evelyn hesitated. "I don't know. But I do know this, we'll face whatever's there together." And in her mind, she added, "Even if what we find at Sanctuary isn't what we hoped for." The forest broke open just after sunrise, spilling light across the ridge like a revelation. Everyone froze as the trees gave way to a steep overlook, and there, nestled in a wide green valley below, was Sanctuary. They stared in silence, breath stolen by the sight. Thick concrete walls surrounded the settlement, at least 15 feet high, crowned with razor wire. 4 tall watchtowers stood at the corners, manned by guards with scoped rifles and polished helmets. Inside the walls, rooftops gleamed under the sun. Solar panels. Rooftop gardens. Smoke rose gently from orderly chimneys. Life. Real, breathing, structured life. Lily whispered, "It's beautiful." Evelyn's throat tightened. "It's real." Kara stepped forward, shielding her eyes. "Look at the grid. And those panels, they've got power. That means lights. Heat. Security." Mason exhaled, almost laughing. "I thought I'd never see something like this again." Jonah leaned against Reed, still recovering. "We actually made it." The journey had nearly broken them, ambushes, hunger, betrayal, but they were here. This was the destination they had bled for. Sanctuary wasn't just a place. It had become their reason to keep going. But as Evelyn watched, that flicker of doubt returned. She remembered Archer's voice in the dark woods. Sanctuary isn't what it seems. They descended the ridge slowly, not wanting to look like a threat. Evelyn raised her hands as they approached the outer perimeter, 30 feet from the wall, right where a thick trench cut through the field. The moment they stepped near it, a voice boomed through a speaker. "Halt!" They froze. A guard in the closest tower had his rifle trained on them. His uniform was spotless: tan vest, black boots, white armband with a blue triangle stitched into it. "State your names and intent," the voice called. "We're survivors," Evelyn shouted back. "6 of us. We're not infected. We're seeking entry." There was silence. Then, weapons on the ground. Slowly. They obeyed. Machetes, knives, Reed's revolver, even Lily's frying pan, all lowered carefully into the dirt. "Remain still," the voice commanded. A group of 4 guards emerged from a hidden gate to the right, their rifles lowered but ready. They wore the same white armbands. Their movements were exact, like soldiers trained long before the fall. A woman led them. Blonde, stern, confident. Her badge read Captain Rourke. She scanned the group, her gaze lingering on Jonah's bandaged arm. "Was he bit?" "No," Kara said. "Bullet wound. Infection cleared." Rourke nodded. "Medical check first. Then you'll be processed." "Processed?" Reed asked. "For security," she replied. "You'll be questioned, scanned, and evaluated. No exceptions." Mason frowned. "Evaluated for what?" Rourke didn't answer. She just waved them forward. Inside the gates, everything looked perfect, almost too perfect. Clean streets. Structured housing. Fresh vegetables being carried from greenhouses. Children playing in groups, watched by armed adults. But no one smiled at the newcomers. No one waved. They just observed. Evelyn felt it in her bones. This wasn't a refuge. It was a machine. And they were being fed into it. They were led to a sterile-looking intake center, white walls, humming lights, reinforced doors. "Wait here," a young guard said. A few minutes later, a man in a medical coat entered. Kind, clinical smile. Clipboard in hand. "Hello," he said. "I'm Dr. Ennis. Welcome to Sanctuary." Evelyn didn't return the smile. "You'll each be examined and interviewed," he continued. "After that, you'll be assigned a temporary dwelling and a role. We match skills to needs here." "What if we don't want a role?" Mason asked. Dr. Ennis blinked once. "Everyone contributes." 2 nurses entered and called Jonah and Mason first. Reed offered to go with Jonah. The rest were told to wait. Evelyn paced, tension building. "This doesn't feel right," she whispered to Kara. "I know," Kara said. "Everything's too controlled." 10 minutes passed. Then 20. No word. Then Lily was called. Evelyn stood. "I'm going with her." The nurse shook her head. "One at a time." "I'm not letting her go alone," Evelyn snapped. A nearby guard stepped forward. "Let her," Lily whispered. "I'll be okay." Evelyn reluctantly sat back down, watching Lily disappear through the corridor. Then came her turn. The exam room was brightly lit, clean, and quiet. Evelyn sat on a padded bench while Dr. Ennis reviewed her file. "You traveled far," he said. "Most don't make it this close." "We had help," she replied. He nodded. "According to your intake form, you were a paramedic?" Evelyn nodded slowly. "That's useful," he said. "You'll be assigned to medical logistics. Inventory, patient management. Non-field. And the others?" He paused. "Reed is being evaluated for external patrol. Mason may not pass. Jonah is still under review. Kara, possible leadership material. And Lily?" A pause. "She's young," he said finally. "We'll place her with the education unit. She won't be alone." Evelyn stood. "I want to see her." "That's not how intake works." She took a step forward. "Where is she?" 2 guards entered instantly. Dr. Ennis kept smiling. "Don't misunderstand. This is a safe place. But safety requires structure. We've worked hard to maintain order. That means rules. Evelyn didn't move. You'll see her after orientation, he said. Assuming you're cleared. She stared him down. Then slowly sat. But inside, her mind was racing. Something was wrong here. Later, the group was reunited, mostly. Jonah was asleep, recovering in the infirmary. Mason hadn't returned. And Lily? Where is she? Evelyn asked again. She's been taken to housing, a clerk said. For her age group. Evelyn clenched her fists. Kara pulled her aside. This isn't what we thought. Evelyn nodded. It's controlled. Micromanaged. But worse than that, something's being hidden. They slept that night in a spotless dorm with cots and numbered lockers. A smiling poster on the wall read, Sanctuary, together we rebuild. But Evelyn didn't sleep. She lay staring at the ceiling, remembering Archer's warning. They take people in, yes. But only the ones they want. Everyone else, they disappear. She whispered to herself. We didn't come all this way to become prisoners. Tomorrow, she would find Lily. Tomorrow, she would find the truth. No matter the cost. Evelyn rose before dawn. The dormitory was dark and silent except for the low hum of overhead lights and the occasional murmur from restless sleepers. She slipped her boots on quietly and grabbed her coat. Every movement was rehearsed, controlled. So was she. But not for much longer. She found Kara waiting by the corridor door, fully dressed and alert. You sure you want to do this now? Kara whispered. If we wait any longer, they'll move her again, Evelyn said. You saw how they separated the injured and the young. They're not a community. They're a system. They had learned too much in too little time. Mason hadn't been seen again. Reed had been sent out on patrol without any say. Jonah remained drugged in the infirmary, though his wound had healed. And Lily, still no sign. No visit. No explanation. Just a vague promise that she was in orientation. Evelyn didn't buy it. Neither did Kara. They moved fast, slipping into a utility corridor using a stolen keycard Kara had lifted from a distracted guard during a routine inspection. The lower levels of Sanctuary weren't shown to newcomers, not unless they asked the wrong questions. Which Evelyn had. And now, she intended to find the answers. The elevator only went down with the keycard. When the doors opened, a blast of cold, recycled air hit them. Harsh white lighting revealed a long, windowless corridor. No posters here. No slogans. Just quiet. And locked doors. They moved down the hallway until they reached a steel door marked Unit 4, unregistered. Kara nodded to Evelyn. Evelyn opened it. What they saw stopped them cold. A holding facility. Rows of children and teens in gray clothing sat on benches in a glass-walled room. They weren't chained, but they weren't free either. No guards inside, just cameras. Silence. Then Evelyn saw her. Lily. She sat near the back, hands folded, staring at the floor. Evelyn stepped forward, her fists clenching. A voice stopped her. I knew you'd come looking. Dr. Ennis. Flanked by 2 security officers, he stood calmly in the doorway behind them. Why is she in there? Evelyn asked, stepping between him and the glass room. She failed screening, he said flatly. Not physically. Behaviorally. She's emotionally attached, combative. That makes her vulnerable to manipulation. She's being retrained. Retrained? Kara repeated. She'll be fine. She'll learn to contribute, to function in this environment. No trauma. No violence. We use carefully designed correctional protocols. That's not protection, Evelyn growled. That's control. Ennis shrugged. We're rebuilding a world, not indulging sentiment. We can't afford weakness. Evelyn turned to Lily, who had now spotted them. She pressed her hand to the glass. Her eyes lit up. Evelyn matched it with her own. Let her out, Evelyn said quietly. No, Ennis replied. Then I will. She turned. Fast. Kara elbowed one guard in the stomach and grabbed his weapon. Evelyn lunged for Ennis and shoved him against the wall. The second guard reached for his baton, but Evelyn's knee drove into his gut before he could act. Kara fired a warning shot into the ceiling. Open the door, she barked. Alarms began to blare, red lights flashing across the corridor. Evelyn grabbed the guard's passkey and opened the cell. Lily ran into her arms. I knew you'd come, Lily sobbed. Always, Evelyn said. But they had no time to savor it. Down the hall, boots pounded. Back the way we came. Kara shouted. They ran. Chaos followed. Guards surged into the lower levels, but Evelyn and Kara stayed ahead of them, using the map and Archer's notebook to navigate the emergency maintenance tunnels. Lily ran between them, never letting go of Evelyn's hand. They burst into the infirmary next, where Jonah lay drugged. Wake him, Evelyn said. Kara injected a stimulant she had taken from the lab. Jonah stirred groggily. What's happening? We're leaving, Evelyn said. Now. Jonah tried to stand and almost fell. I've got him, Kara said, slinging his arm over her shoulder. They headed for the outer wall. Outside, Sanctuary had gone into lockdown. Sirens wailed. Drones buzzed above. Voices barked orders over loudspeakers. But Evelyn wasn't stopping. She found the eastern gate unmanned. Most personnel were at the front wall, expecting an external breach. She used the stolen pass card on the control panel. It worked. The gate creaked open. Sunlight hit their faces for the first time in what felt like days. But then... Stop them, a voice shouted from behind. A squad of guards was sprinting toward the exit. Evelyn turned. Reed. Face bruised. Uniform torn. He raised a rifle at the guards behind him. I'm with you, he shouted. He fired once, twice. The guards ducked. Go, he roared. I'll cover you. Evelyn hesitated only a second, then pulled Lily through the gate. Kara followed with Jonah. Reed backed out last, tossing a grenade from one of the fallen guards into the hall. It exploded behind them as the gate slammed shut. They didn't stop running until they reached the tree line. Only then did they collapse. Jonah lay breathing hard. Kara was bloodied but grinning. Reed sat down in the dirt, laughing with disbelief. And Lily curled against Evelyn's side, silent but safe. They were free. That night, the group camped in a meadow under the stars. What now? Reed asked. Evelyn stared into the fire. We keep moving. But this time, we don't look for walls. We build our own, Kara said. Evelyn nodded. Sanctuary isn't a place. It's the people you protect. The ones who protect you. Jonah raised a can of beans. To surviving. To freedom, Reed added. To family, Evelyn said, her eyes on Lily. And for the first time since the world had fallen apart. They didn't feel lost. They felt like they were finally on the right road. End of Part 8, end of story.